Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, to increase your profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week's episode is an interview with artist Rebecca King. And I left a little link here on the notes to, or you can just search her name, Rebecca King, in Instagram, so you can get a visual about what we're talking about. I think this is going to be a really good episode with lots of feedback. I think you're going to love it because I loved it. I am really interested in doing canvas art and prints and the business end behind it. I used to do some back in the day. I've been doing murals for a while, and I think it's just the itch of like, let's try something new this winter. And Rebecca tells me all the things, all of her back end. And I should have kept recording because once we got off, I was like, hey, how do you ship? Like, is this this? And like, blah, blah, blah. We just kept going. Like, she is so full of information on this subject. And so I'm just going to let her get to it. Let me know what you think about this interview with Rebecca King. All right, Rebecca, tell us who you are, what kind of art you create, and how did you land on the beautiful Instagram aesthetic that you currently have? Because I was looking at it and I was like, gosh, I want to create the same type of art just so my Instagram can look like yours.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. So I'm Rebecca King. I'm a fine artist. And I've been a full-time artist for about 4 years now. I actually had a career in interior design before this, but was really called to pursue my art more. And over the years, I've just really honed in on my style and working with large scale abstracts. I work mainly with acrylic inks and typically in cooler tones, blues, greens, although I do kind of incorporate some neutrals throughout there as well. And yeah, I mean, I've really kind of grown my Instagram through focusing on photography and really just working from my home studio, which is just this all white blank studio space that I have here. And I make each collection come alive inside of it. So
awesome. So you really have an aesthetic that's your own, like something that you've really found. And even like you saying you using cool colors, it's like it's not just enough for you to use inks and abstract, like you have like a color palette even that you use. How did you land on the painting style that you have now? How did that evolve?
Yeah, so well, that's there's some layers to that. It's really a journey that I went through. First on, just to touch real quick on the colors. I think I've experimented with every color through the years, even before I started working with acrylic inks and waters. And at first, my paintings years ago would have every color in them. And then I kind of honed in on just what the colors made me personally feel. And I would hang work up in my own home and then kind of evaluate the mood that it created. And so that's where that stemmed from, was needing to design my own home and honestly hanging my own art around it and then seeing how that reflected in the space. And so I kind of gained my own favorite colors to work with right now. That is, it might evolve in the future, but I typically work with blues and greens, and then I'll go from different tones of blues and different tones of greens. And just the slightest shift can change the whole collection. If the work feels sometimes the greens I work with, this collection right now has a warmer green, a little bit more yellows in it. But I worked with a collection 2 years ago and the green had more blues in it. And it really does change the whole feel just in the monochromatic scheme itself. So that's where I'm at with my work now, is really diving in and dialing in on just specific shades and tones of colors and how it affects the overall mood and the concept of the collection. But I'd love to share with you how I came to find my style, because I know you asked that as well. And it's a whole journey. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, give it to me.
Okay. So I, like so many other artists, about 7 years ago was experimenting with every art style. And I had been painting since high school, really was fond of acrylics because you can work fast with them and you can really build them up. And so I loved acrylics, painted with them for years on and off. Like I'd go a few months without painting and then I'd paint on the weekends. But I really started my journey with wanting to find a creative career out of high school. And I went to school for interior design because I thought that that was going to align with that feeling of being creative and just knowing naturally that I should be on that path. And outside of school, it really kind of pushed me to go more commercial design and more into the architecture world. While I was in school, I didn't expect that. I thought I'd be designing homes. But then right out of college, I went into an architecture firm, and pretty soon after that, it didn't feel aligned with where I wanted to be. I was still kind of painting in my free time, but I had done so much work to get there and to be kind of sitting at that desk that I was at first proud of. But within the first few weeks, something felt wrong. I had spent so much time to get that career and it wasn't creative enough initially. And then over years, it still wasn't. And so I kind of it was kind of a difficult time of feeling lost. Did I waste my time? Did I get confused? And so during this time, my daughter was also a toddler, and my husband and I had gotten pregnant during school and taken a year off and then went back. And then so it felt like this long journey to get where I was. But I was lost, and it really started there with this feeling of confusion and honestly a little bit of depression in my life. I would drive to work just so sad, and as a creative just feeling uninspired and lacking. And so during that time, I started painting on the weekends, just experimenting and exploring. And I found myself pursuing it more than I ever had. I would be painting. And at this point, I didn't have a studio or anything. I had a kitchen table, and I would be setting up large scale canvases that I would go and buy at the craft shop and just paint whatever my heart desired. That weekend, it could be anything. It was mainly landscapes in all different color palettes, and family would be over. There'd be a football game on the TV in the living room, and I'm over here nonchalantly painting my art in the kitchen, just feeling inspired by that. But that was it. It was just really it was an outlet. It was, I didn't understand a lot at that time, how everything felt unaligned. But one thing I knew was when I created, everything felt right. When I was painting, that felt right. But at that point, I still hadn't sold a single piece of art, had never done even an art show. That was just creative play, where so many of us start as artists. And after painting and it kind of piling up in closets, and again, around my house, I would put paintings up, but decorating my own home with them. I don't know if I consciously had the thought yet of selling it. I really don't. But a family member reached out and asked, are these for sale? And the reason was because right at that time, I decided to be vulnerable and start sharing them on social media. This was back in 2017. I posted my first painting. And up until then, I had just posted interior design on my Instagram. But I felt being a little vulnerable and sharing that I was also a creative, because I wasn't really having that creative outlet enough at the time. And so I started sharing and posting just a few posts, probably one painting a week. And I was working really fast then. And my husband's aunt actually reached out and asked, is this one for sale? And it was a smaller painting that I had done. And it just took me, it caught me so off guard, because I was well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense why I'm posting online. I think I hoped that someone was going to ask that, but I don't know, you don't know yet. And I wasn't sure of myself. And so it was in person that she asked me, she showed me the picture, and I let her know, yes, it's for sale. And she asked, how much was it? Which I should have known that'd be the next question, but I hadn't thought about it. And I randomly blurted out $50. And so she was well, I'll take it. And I was what? And at that moment, everything kind of changed. I remember leaving the family event and getting in the car, and I was on cloud nine. I mean, I couldn't stop saying oh my gosh, she just bought my first painting. And I mean, it really just changed so much. It was such a trajectory. I was so inspired because I thought, if I can sell one, why not a few more? So then over the next few weeks, I started posting like available, like in the captions, I'd be like, this painting is available on social media. And really the style kind of evolved then over me learning like how to sell it and work in bodies of work. But there's another layer then that happened to that with like the style evolving, that I still wasn't like happy with my full-time job. And once I had sold like enough here and there, like not for a large price point, it started opening up that other channel of like, wait a minute, like I could become a professional artist. And they weren't selling for the price points that they do now, but all you need is like a few under your belt, and it creates, that thought process. And that's really, really where it started was, okay, if I can sell one, I can sell three. If I can sell three, I can sell five. Then I did an art show and sold like 10 that day, which was unexpected. So yeah, so that kind of opened up that path.
Okay, so nowadays, do you still do art shows, or do you get most of your sales from Instagram, or like where do they come from?
Yeah, so no, I don't really do art shows anymore, but I'm not completely like against it. I would be willing to. Sometimes I've seen some that seem like a good fit in, not necessarily in the city that I'm in, but in some small towns that are around me. I think it's like a better fit. I'm kind of debating doing one in the future, but I haven't done one in 5 years. But that's really where I got like a lot of knowledge and confidence from, because you get to meet people face to face.
Yeah. Okay. So nowadays, is it like, I noticed when I was looking at your Instagram a second ago, that your collector's list, if you join your collector's list, you get free shipping. And that you also have a print sale going on starting tomorrow as we're recording this. Tell me all about that stuff.
Yeah. So my prints, actually, I didn't release prints for the whole first year. Where I started was releasing in like collections. And really, even before collections, I started releasing like a few at a time, and like 2 or 3 at a time. And then it kind of built up to like larger bodies of work. And then I got into email list marketing and learning that, the algorithm can change anytime on Instagram. So you really want to get people on your email list so that you can market directly to them. And typically, twice a year, I have a print sale, and that's where a lot of my prints sell, especially in this later half of the year, like so close to the holidays. But I also release my originals through my collector's list as well. And that's where a lot of collectors like go directly to my website and purchase my work. So I promote it on Instagram and through my email, and they kind of coordinate there. And that's where they find me.
Okay, great. I love the behind the scenes business talk like this. So, yes. Okay. So nowadays you release collections. How many paintings are usually in a collection, and how many times a year do you release a collection?
Well, my first year, I had 4 collections in 1 year, and it spanned from the very first collection that like I released as a full-time artist had 7 paintings, but then I had 14 paintings in my next collection. And then I kind of scaled it back to 5 and the one after that. And then it was like 10 again. So it really depends on, I think sometimes, how much I can weave my concept through it, because that's typically with every collection. It begins as an idea, but then I really take the time to like sketch out and go a little deeper into the process of like, how many ways can I interpret this? And it can be the most simplest idea, but we all have different perspectives. And sometimes as artists, we even have multiple perspectives on the same idea. And so there's room in some collections to really interpret that in different ways, and especially working with colors. So it really varies. I've had collections as small as 5 and as large as 14.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this year, how many collections did you release?
I released 2 this year. And for the last 3 years, I've released 2. That first year releasing 4, it was a lot. I think I was like completely burnt out by that 4th collection. And I really, I had decided earlier in the year that I was going to release 4, but I think I really pushed that last collection too hard. I remember being pretty burnt out at that point. And so then I've landed at 2 per year, especially now because I've introduced prints.
Mm-hmm.
And that first year I wasn't marketing anything else. It was just the originals. But then when you're marketing prints as well, you have to have dedicated time to do that because, it's a common misconception that like prints are much easier than originals to sell, but you still have to market them sometimes just as much, if not more, honestly.
So true. Okay. I like that insight. Okay. So say your first collection of the year or the recent one, what are you doing? Like, what kind of emails are you sending or posts are you making? Or like, how are you marketing it before you put it out? And then how are you marketing it like when you do put it out? Is it like one big email? Is it multiple emails? Like, I imagine you have like a system kind of, and it's like evolved throughout the years, but it can almost like copy paste a little bit from like, tell me.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty similar each time, but I think I don't send an email out like the moment that I begin the work. Really, I feel like it varies, but it typically takes 6 to 8 weeks for me personally. And I want to have a few finished paintings by then. Normally I'm like crossing over with like what I'm doing on Instagram and kind of what's happening behind the scenes in the studio. So when you see a video, it might have happened, a week or two before, like, because I need that time to really explore my work like in quiet and not really worry about filming like those first 2 to 3 weeks usually, because it's all experimental. Like there may be pieces that don't work out. In fact, there usually are. Like I'm really exploring, unstretching canvases, pinning up notes. Like it's a beautiful, messy process, but it's also just a little too intimate and a little too messy for me to feel comfortable like sharing online. So I wait until the work is in a good place. And there's also like a system with that because as artists, we have to value that process. And especially when we learn to show up online, we have to know that not every moment is meant to show up online and that it could distract us from our work. So that's something I learned throughout the years. And once I have usually like 2 paintings completed, then I know the direction that the work is going to go in. And so I'll typically then feel comfortable to send out an email. And I know I can begin like, I'll have an idea and I'll have a concept and I'll know where the collection's going, but it's kind of like the beginning of an idea still that I share with people. And then usually a few weeks later, then I share more kind of intensely like the full on idea of the collection and really all encompassing. So it's kind of like that first email is more of like a sneak. There's work coming. Here's the color palette. Maybe I'll share a finished piece or like they can see it in the background. I want to give them an idea at first, other than just a blanket email like new work is coming without them knowing what to expect. Because even though people are interested in my work and waiting to collect, they're going to connect with some collections, maybe more than others, depending on what they're looking for their own home. Then there's typically the email like of the date that the collection will be releasing. Of course, they need to know that because the Instagram algorithm, you never know what you're going to see, a story, a post, and like you don't want to rely just on that for like the release of your collection or body of work or even individual paintings. There's multiple ways to do it. And then I send out the email when the work is ready and when it's releasing. Yeah.
Okay, great. So in your experimental time or like the time right after you release and you're like, okay, like I can breathe a little bit, like I've always heard the rule is like send an email newsletter once a month or something, but is there ever like a big like chunk of time where you're like, I'm just going to not market at all and just create, or do you keep them warm?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that depends on your art style, the size of your art, how often you're releasing, and originals versus prints versus commissions, right? Like, so with prints, that's where I feel like I don't necessarily call it like a newsletter because I feel like what newsletters would work really well for is other artists. Like they want to know what you're doing in your studio. They want to see like behind the scenes. Or if you offer like a wide range of products or there's like a certain price point you're hitting, I feel like newsletters could work well. But typically prints, I could send emails all year long. There's so many ways to market prints. But when it comes to like a collection, that's an intimate thing that people are signing up for that and they don't need to hear from you. In my personal opinion, that's what I do until you're ready to kind of show them what you're about to have. And then you heavily market like that work. And then you release it and it feels special. It's not like you're just kind of keeping updated with it. Like collectors, this is an investment. When works are going for thousands of dollars, people typically aren't just keeping up with me, to hang out. Like they're like, when's that work going to be available? I have a wall in my home. I need to know when you're releasing it because I'm ready or, I'm going to make space because whatever you release, I'm going to buy and make space for it. Either way, like they have that type of thought process. And I feel like newsletters work much better when it's more casual and maybe like to other artists or like if you release a painting course or something like that, like that's where newsletters are going to work well.
Okay, great. So whenever you're not releasing a full collection, you're probably every once in a while doing like a print release or
right.
What's the marketing strategy behind the print release? Do you do like certain discounts? Are they available all the time or?
Yeah, so I've actually experimented with this throughout the years and I've stayed consistent for about the last 2 years, but it's always like what works best for you as an artist and also kind of what is evolving. So I used to open and close my print shop, but at first it was an experimentation and that was like years ago. And then I decided to keep it open. And basically when I'm running the sale is, where I get the most prints coming in, but I also offer discount codes for people when they join my email list for prints. And so it's pretty still consistent throughout the year, but the pushes come when the sales are marketed. But I am going to be closing my print shop this year after the sale because January is typically so slow for so many artists and creatives in general. And I might get a few orders in there, but sometimes I'm focusing on so many other things. Like it feels like it's the perfect time to like close it down for a few months and really kind of push the sale. And I haven't done that in 2 years, but that can work really well. And there's different marketing for different artists. I have seen artists that only open their print shop for a week or two throughout the entire year, and then all their prints come in. But my print shop's been open all year, and I'm just going to close it probably for a few months until spring of next year, just because it's like the slower season anyways, and really to get that push. And I have some like other things that I'll be focusing on. And we do like hand stretch the prints in house. My husband frames them and like every single print, I hand sign and roll. And it's a beautiful process, but when you're sporadically getting orders and like it's not the focus, it can kind of like I like to like devote sometimes focus time to other things. So
oh, wow. Good for you. You're creating your own print. It's like, and you stretch your own canvases before you do them. It's like, you're the full like package from start to finish. I love that.
Well, my husband usually stretches them. I have done a few, but it's a workout. I have my hands in the whole process, but yeah, it's a family business.
Oh, I love that you have a supportive husband. I do as well. And I'm always saying, I'm like, yeah, but like I did this, but really Ryan did this and like my husband and yeah. So that's great. Okay. So how many people do you have currently on your email list for prints and originals and all the things that are like, just to give like a numbers for people, because some people listening might have like 300 or something. And they're like, what's a really good number where like you're getting X amount of sales and you feel really good about it?
Okay. Well, I want to be clear. I had a sold out collection 4 years ago when I had about 100 people on my email list. But since then, I think it's like 8,000 now.
Oh, wow.
But that's like all my email lists. I also have artists on that as well. So that's between like artists and collectors, just like people interested in my brand in general. I think the collectors list is probably right around like 2,000, but that's years worth of building up and so much marketing. And you'd be surprised, like the analytics behind when you start promoting your email list. Yeah, there's days where you think you're going to get a lot of signups and you don't. And there's other days where whatever painting that was that you shared or however you said it in the right way, like however I said it, like that really got them interested. And then of course, like if you do in-person events, like there's that opportunity to get people on your email list there as well. So you don't need a lot because if someone is signing up for your list and it is like, sign up here if you are interested in buying my art, it's not going to be like a flood through the doors, most likely. It's going to be slowly and built over time. But every single person, like, it's so precious because they're considering buying your art. Like, if they're signing up for that list, they are curious enough to at least know what you're going to charge, at least want to see, the release. Like, and so it's built over time. And even if you only have 50 people on your list, I really feel like it could be a successful launch.
Love it. Okay. I love all the stuff behind this. Okay. What's the main way you're getting people on your email list? Like what's the number one driver? Just having it, because I went to your Instagram and you can click on your links and you can join from there. So like basically anybody that's finding you, like it's right there. And I also just want to say, I love how you have on there in your bio on Instagram, like, hey, my print sale is coming on this date, like literally right there. So anybody goes to your thing, they're like, oh, okay, great. And then you also have on there, like right there, you get free shipping, if you're on your list. And so like that already like gains intrigue to then possibly click on there and get on that list. So is just having it right there really work? Or do you like do print giveaways, or do you just like promote it on your posts, or all the above?
Yeah, so my bio is actually always evolving. Like, I just updated that this week because the print sale is happening. But like the few weeks before, it was my collection release. And then, before that, it was probably, sign up. I'm always like promoting my collector's list. And I actually, and you can call it whatever you want. Like, I have artists call it different things, but I call it the collector's list. But because that way it's very specific to the collector. But essentially, it's just your email list. And right now it's free shipping for prints, but sometimes in between like print sales and just throughout the year, it could be like 10% off prints if you sign up for my collector's list. So there's always different incentives to market for people to sign up. And yeah, I always have it in the bio, like use it in your bio. It's an ever evolving thing. Your business, like as an artist, as it evolves, update your bio. Like I'm updating it like every month. And right now it's free shipping, but it can be 10% off prints sometimes when it's like the off season in the summer, or a new collection is beginning, right at the beginning. And then it's like new work coming soon. And then once I've titled the collection, I'll say the exact date that it's coming. And then it's like the collection is now released, and then it's print. So, or commissions are now open because I also market commissions. So it could be that as well in the bio. And then I have my links, and so people can go click on that. And then of course stories, like whenever it makes sense, like not to bombard them, but when it just makes sense perfectly to put that link there, like that really helps get the signups in every way that you need it to.
Nice. Okay. What are your paintings usually going for nowadays? Like how many, and does it matter per size? Do you price them differently than your commissions? Like what's your pricing structure?
Yeah, my commissions are a little bit more than originals because that requires some back and forth and collaboration. My most popular size is the 36 by 48. And each year I incrementally like raise the prices slowly. My 36 by 48s are 2,600 now. And basically like I didn't start at that. And what a controversial topic, like what to price your art at. Am I right? Like, where do you begin?
Like, I love to ask this question. I'm glad that you're open about it because a lot of people might not be. Yeah. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, again, obviously my first painting sold for $50, but that was just like a little 12 by 12 painting. But 6 years ago, I was selling 36 by 48s for like $500-$600. But that was like at art shows. And yeah, it was underpriced, but you know what? They were selling, and it still showed me what people wanted from my work and which work I enjoyed like creating. And very early on, I still think that can work because the difference between $500 and $1,500, you can discount a piece of art like all you want, but people aren't going to buy it just because it's discounted or just because it's on sale. It really has to do with like, how much do they want it? But in the beginning, my collectors were a different audience. Like those willing to pay $500 are different than the collectors willing to pay like $2,500. They didn't need like that edited polished like brand like I've become. And they were excited about like a new emerging artist. And I would like share paintings on stories and be like, this is for sale. DM me if you want it. Basically, like it was much more casual. And then I was seeing if I would get the DMs. And that's how like a lot of times I sold those paintings for $500 was just through DMs.
Love it.
So
man, I do murals mostly. Like I was just doing a mural, a logo today, and I'm always thinking about doing what you're doing and like having a collection, releasing it, and like doing that. But finding the time, I mean, what a terrible problem, right? Is how like I'm so busy doing murals that like it's hard to find time to do this. But this winter, I'm really planning on like doing some time. But in the back of my head, and this is something you do all the time. So just talk about like the mental of it. And like in the back of my head, it's kind of tough for me to be like, okay, I'm going to take a whole 2 months and I'm just going to paint what I want to paint and like work through that and have a collection and then hope it sells, you know, because I paint like today I paid like $900 doing a small logo. So it like gets paid like I know what I'm getting when I go do something, whether it's like big or little or whatever. But the idea of having a collection and not knowing if it's going to sell, how has that evolved for you over the years?
Okay. I love this. And I want to dive even like a little deeper into this question of like how it started, because that point where like I became a full-time artist versus I sold some art on the side while I had my other job, you know, that wasn't fulfilling me. And that like salary that I needed to replace because we're a multi-income home and it was like deeply needed. Like I didn't have the luxury of saying I'm going to become a full-time artist. If I don't make any money, oh well, like I really didn't have that and that could have been bad. So there was like that difficult moment of knowing when it was the right time. And basically it was really when I was like discovering my style, and it's like emotional thinking back because that's the hardest part. That's a question that I get asked all the time. Like, how do you know to commit to it? And I was having a really rough time with my job and just with life in general and painting on the weekends and developing my style. And I started getting a few commissions. After I sold a few pieces, like I went to some art shows, and that ended up being a great little side hustle income while I had my full-time job, the art shows. That was building confidence, which is what I feel like any artist needs to do, like at least proof of concept in some way, whether it be selling through DMs or going to an art show or just promoting it to everyone you know personally. Hey, what can you afford like this painting for? You have to begin with the proof of concept before jumping completely in typically to a collection and trying to sell a collection before you've ever sold any original. I recommend, because that art show taught me so much. Now, it wasn't my first art show. It was actually my third art show. My very first art show, I sold nothing and I was completely unprepared. I didn't even think about like how I was going to take payments. Everyone around me had like these QR or what were they called? What are they called? The little QR
like the chip things?
Yeah, where someone can put their card in, and I arrived and I'm like, oh yeah, didn't even think about that. I arrived with like 10 paintings, like all green and excited, like hanging them up and like, woohoo. But like I had handmade the prices and everything and the titles of the work. And this was like back before I really had like that style, but I had no idea how I was going to take payments. And so I took that knowledge and went to the second art show and at least had a way to take payments. And I sold like one small painting. And then I still had the courage to go to the third art show, which I sold like over 10 pieces of art. And I really just hit like the market. And that's when it kind of reflected that first day that I sold that painting for $50. Like that third art show like changed my life, because I was like, okay, if I can sell one, I can sell another. But if I can sell 10, maybe I can make a whole career out of this. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really started like posting more heavily on Instagram. And I didn't even consistently keep doing the art shows. It was like I was really interested in that online market. And at that point, I was really diving into like discovering what my work meant, because that's a whole nother piece of the puzzle with like having the confidence. It's not just like the proof of sale, but you don't want the sale to feel random and be like, I don't know why they love my art. They just do. You really want to know that your work has that like meaning and value because you're putting it into it and you believe in your own art. So I was learning how to do that, experimenting with color and really like taking the time in addition to my full-time job to do that, because I knew that I had to believe in my own work. And so it was a process. It was a lot of hours like at night and on the weekends of really just exploring. And again, I still didn't have like a full studio space. I was at my kitchen table, but I was like really diving in and I was discovering this medium that I worked with. I knew that I really loved working with water. And so I was like working with acrylics and working with water. And then I started experimenting with like watercolors on canvas. And I was at my local art store. And I had the guy that worked at the art store like recommend like, hey, have you ever tried acrylic inks? Like, I think that's really the effect like you're going for. And so I took it home and like experimented with acrylic inks and like it just ignited something in me. And I absolutely like loved working with it. And that's where my style was born. And then I started feeling really confident in my work. Like I started knowing like I have a vision and I'm creating something here that like I believe in now. And then at that point, more than ever, I was hanging my art in my home and I was like, I love it. Like before I'd hang a painting up and be like, it's okay. Like, right. You know, you're still on the cusp of finding your style when like you hang your own work up and a week later you walk by and you're like, I don't know. Like, but I started to really believe in my work. And so it made it easier to show up online. And, you know, you got to go deep into that process of experimenting. You have to admit when things don't work out. I was unstretching canvases rapidly. Like I got really quick at a few days later saying, nope, it didn't work. Like I still had those moments where I debated, does this need another layer? Or have I like created too many layers on this painting? Or what more does it need? Like I would take that time. But then if I had overworked the canvas, I'd unstretch it and I'd say, nope, that's part of the process. That painting needed to teach me something. And I still had my full-time job because at this point, like I had made a good amount from that art show and I had made, you know, through DMs on Instagram, some money from the art, but like by no means was it like a full-time gig. It was just a great side hustle. So the confidence was really key. And it's something like as artists, like we really have to believe in that work when we release it. But even before then, what was really like pivotal was I was releasing in small groups, but I was also asking people like if they wanted to commission a piece. And that's really where it began to make even a stronger income because now that was the moment I diversified my income. Like I went from just selling originals to now people were paying me before I created the work. I would get a deposit of half, which I recommend. So then you have the money to buy the supplies, to get it all ready, to ship it. And then they pay me at the end. And so the commissions really began kind of flooding in. And then at this point, it was even a more difficult time in my life because my mom passed away and it really kind of showed me that like delicateness of life. I had never had anyone pass away. And, you know, I'm still at this job every day, like crying on my way to work, but on the weekends, painting and loving my life, but getting the Sunday scaries. And then when my mom passed, it's like, life is short. Like life is short. And then that gave me like that final push of confidence. It was like confidence in three ways. Like the work had sold, people liked it. I was getting commissions. I loved my own work. Like I believed that I was offering something valuable. And then it's like, oh yeah, life is short. Like who cares if I have a post that, you know, doesn't go great or, you know, one person doesn't like my art. Like I'm going to post it anyways because I believe in it. And that's when I started promoting commissions more and like quite a few came in at the end of that year. So much so that I luckily had the decision to say, do I stay with this job? Because I might not finish these commissions that now there was like 5 of them. I've given them a timeline by Christmas. I got to get these shipped out. And like, then I realized I don't know if I have enough time. Like, and I don't know if I have enough time to do them well and do them right because this job is stressing me out. And so I made the decision because I had gotten the deposits from all the commissions. I felt pretty confident putting in my 2 weeks at my job. And then at that point, after I finished all those commissions, I had made enough of an income where I could live off of it for a little while and at least release 2 collections and have like 6 to 8 months to sell at least, you know, half of all the work in order to like replace that income, and then ended up that very first year completely replacing my salary income. So it worked.
Love it. I love a good it worked story and just dissecting how it worked. And you explain it in depth, which as a podcaster, I very much appreciate, because sometimes I'm asking people, I'm like, what are you pricing at? They're like $5 per square foot. And that's it. I'm like, okay, let's talk about like why.
Do the math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay. So a couple of things that I'm taking away from this is, it's even the last thing you said is like, okay, if I create a collection here upcoming, the idea of like spending so much time on it and be like, okay, the goal is like, let's like sell half of these, like let's figure out what I need to do to sell half. And as long as I love all of them, but mostly the one of like, I'm going to go in my house tonight and clear a spot on my wall to hang my art. And because it's a difference in what I want to hang in my home sometimes and what I want to create. And so looking at this next collection of like, what do I want to hang in my home and that I also love, because that's what people are going to be asking themselves, like, this is going to look good on this wall. And yeah, so love it.
Right. And it's not, it's not always, it is kind of a place we can become torn as artists, because sometimes the ideal collector is different than like your aesthetic, like in your own home. But if you think it is, it's like dialing in on who that type of person is. And then if they like bright and colorful, but I like neutrals, how else do they live where like I can brand my art in a way that they would buy it? That was definitely like a thought process. Like, who's the ideal collector of my art? Like, where do they shop? How do they live? Like, what kind of job may they have? Like, what's their age demographic? Like, sometimes, your art can appeal to like a very specific like demographic. Other times it's like way more wide and it's kind of like all over the place. And sometimes through the years, like I've asked collectors, like, what did you feel like connected to in my work? And so it's rare, but I've gotten that opportunity to really hear that, especially at art shows. Like, I got to know exactly what they were connected to so I could lean into that. But then I honestly felt like I became my ideal collector. Like, the more like with my interior design background that I started like designing my home, I've honestly like designed my whole home around my art. So like, at first, it wasn't like that. And then I really felt the need to like, I wanted to live with my own paintings. And so I became my own ideal collector as well. So doesn't always like, as long as you know who it is and how they might live and what they might want out of the work. Like, what do they want to feel? Like those core feelings, like, is it fun and playful and like, in a dining room where there's a lot of energy, and do they host a lot and it's like a talking point, or is it calm and relaxing? I think that kind of helps too.
Yeah. My wheels are spinning inside of my head of what I'm going to create on canvas in the next couple months. So, but I really appreciate you just showing us the back end as well, and just talking about all of the marketing intertwined with like the meaning and the passion to create. You're a great podcast guest. So what is maybe some last little things to leave us with? And also let me know, because you also mentor artists. So in what capacity?
Yeah, so I have a membership called the Artist Guild, and it really was born from just through these years of like learning so much. Early on, years ago, like I really sought out like mentors that were creating paintings as well. And I learned a lot from them. But then through the years, like I've really applied some things that I felt like I discovered on my own. And so I really kind of teach it full circle inside the membership, the Artist Guild, how to release collections, really diving more deep into that process of like marketing them, debunking social media, and like going through that and making it much more enjoyable and like learning which metrics to focus on. And then of course, like learning how to connect with your art, like finding a unique style that is uniquely like you, and kind of trusting that process that it evolves and there's some experimentation of that. And it's not always like an upward trajectory of the process. It's like learning and unlearning along the way as you're connecting with your work. I know that like I experienced that, and each collection is like a learning opportunity as well. And so like I teach it kind of full circle because I don't just want to focus on the selling of art, because you have to find the meaning and the confidence through your art, because that is such a huge pillar. Like it is really kind of one of the main things I see inside the Artist Guild with so many new members is like, how do I find that confidence? And there's a few steps to get there. And I teach it in a way that's like unique to you. It's not a one system fits all. It's really like, let's evaluate this. And then once you discover this, let's move forward and explore this. And so yeah, I've had the Artist Guild now for a few years, and that's really been, you know, another fun aspect is giving back to other artists. It's fun.
Love it. Yeah, no, we're definitely on the same wavelength here. I wish you lived closer and probably hang out in our free time that we really don't have because we're running our businesses and have kids and all the things.
Right? That would be awesome.
Yeah, no, love your energy and just the vibe and everything that you brought today. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day and to chat with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you. This was so fun.